If you've been here for even a second, you might know that I'm obsessed with sport. What you might not know is that I'm also obsessed with good design. Sport has a lot of good design in it. Of course, graphically, it's what tells the stories. But I want to talk to you about the design that gives athletes that edge. In sport, victory often comes down to milliseconds, millimeters, or the smallest edge. It could be the shoes that grip the turf or the bras that make movement possible. Good design doesn't just look good, it changes how women play, compete, and win. This is where performance meets purpose. It's where good design wins. Welcome back to the RSG show. I'm Nandita and this is episode 3 of Good Design Wins. American football, real football, and rugby all have one thing in common. And it's not the fact that they each have progressively more complicated offside rules. In all these sports, players must wear studs, cleats, boots, whatever you want to call it. When I was growing up, buying new studs was like the most exciting thing in the world. I'd go to Nike or Adidas with my dad and see whether I liked the ones that Neymar was wearing in the poster better or Messi, and hope that they had a men's size small enough to fit me. My point is, we've never had female-specific studs until now. And today, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you about. Firstly, what are studs exactly? So far, I guess we've had two kinds of boots, studs and blades. Both studs and blades offer near identical functionality. They offer the wearer grip and control on a playing surface. But the two differ in construction and appearance, each offering a different experience. They're designed to provide traction, stability, and a grip on playing surfaces like grass or artificial turf. The studs are made to dig into the ground, preventing slips and slides, especially on softer, wet surfaces. They also offer a stable base, improving balance and control during movements like cutting and turning. When we look at modern football boots, it's easy to notice all the flashy stuff, the bold colorways and the cutting-edge designs that players show off on the pitch. But what we don't see is actually one of the most crucial parts of the boot: the sole plate and the studs underneath. They might be hidden from view, but without them, the boot is practically useless. Those studs are what give players grip, balance, and control. Without that, traction, changing direction, or making quick moves would be almost impossible, and agility is everything in today's game. And that sole plate nowadays is changing, and there are a lot of options. Players are now given a choice of stud configurations specifically designed to perform on a number of different surfaces, and we have even finally reached a point where the stud plate can be women specific. I'll tell you a little bit about where football studs came from in the first. The first pair of football boots noted in history were actually made for King Henry VIII of England, who ordered a pair from his great wardrobe in 1526. Back in the mid-1800s, male footballers didn't have specialized boots. They played in their regular work boots, thick leather, steel-toed, and built for protection, not performance. They even hammered metal studs in their soles for grip. Safe to say, they weren't exactly comfortable and the risk of injury was high. The mid-19th century saw the formalization of football rules, which spurred the need for more appropriate footwear. The first dedicated football boots began to emerge in the 1860s, designed to offer better grip and support. These early versions were still quite heavy, made of thick leather and extending above the ankle to provide extra protection. They weighed about half a kg each and were equipped with studs or tacks hammered into the soles for traction. The dawn of the 20th century marked a significant shift towards lighter and more functional football boots. In the 1920s and the 1930s, manufacturers like Gola and Valsport began producing boots that were lower cut, allowing for greater flexibility and freedom of movement. Leather remained the primary material, but the design became more refined, focusing on a better fit and improved comfort. I've always been more of a Nike girl, but this move by Adidas might sway me. In 1975, something big happened for women, specifically for the first time in this industry. Adidas released the Anya, the three-stripe brand's first ever football boot made specifically for women. Named after the daughter of one of the designers, the Adidas Anya also stood out with its white color, which was quite unusual for the time, and the way its studs were directly connected to the sole plate. Now, by women specific, I mean that they were marketed specifically for women. It was not engineered with the same level of anatomical research that we will see in the future. But hey, it was 1975, we'll take the small wins. The last 2 decades of the 20th century saw an explosion of technological advancements in men's football boots. Synthetic materials began to be used alongside traditional leather, offering improved durability and performance. The 1990s in particular witnessed the birth of some iconic models. To cut a long story short, the boots kept evolving and becoming more streamlined, injury resistant and beautiful, but all for the men's game. And for forever, female players have had to use these boots, the ones based on men's bodies, technology made for male physiology. And we've seen a lot of problems come from this. I mean, the elephant in the room is the ACL injuries in women's football. And of course, I'm not saying that all ACLs are caused solely because of the shoes that female players are wearing, but it's definitely a factor. We have different bodies and different Q angles, and we need shoes that will work with that, not against it. I mean, men and women's foot shapes are just different. At a talk by Kat Ockham-Greiger, a football medicine researcher, she said, the foot is a complex shape. It's not a square or a circle, right? Females have differences in the length of bones, differences in the width of forefoot relative to the length, higher arches, different heel shapes. For one of her research papers, she visited 16 of the top women's football clubs around Europe. Speaking to the players, she asked them if they had pain and discomfort on a daily basis when wearing their football boots. 82% of them said yes. They experience pain in their boots every single day. So obviously, the need is there and the market is there. And as women's football and as women's sports continue to grow, the voice of this market has just become louder and louder. Adidas Sports became the first brand to make the major push for female-specific studs in 2020. They're devoted solely to football footwear specifically engineered for women based on biomechanical needs. The company's premise is that cleats made specifically for women help reduce injuries, including ACL tears, which women are up to 8 times more likely to incur than men, according to some recent studies. The company's cleats include more arch support, a narrower heel cup, a wider toe box, and shorter conical studs. The company says that proper equipment rather than women wearing small-size cleats made for men is one of the factors to mitigating injury. More recently, in 2023 and 2025, Nike, Puma, and Adidas have joined IDA in launching female-specific boots, which is huge. In 2023, Nike launched their most researched women's-led football boot design in history right before the Women's World Cup. The Phantom Luna boot, which has taken 2 years to make, features a unique design specifically requested by female athletes. Nike's research found that the women's game is concentrated more towards attacking as a team and demands more touch passes in general, which has seen the Phantom Luna manufactured with larger touch zones to optimize boot-to-ball connection. The Phantom Luna is anatomically designed with the lower cuff to accommodate the female ankle, while the higher collar provides increased lockdown to reduce rotational traction at the knee, thereby reducing the risk of ACL injuries for both men and women. The boot also has arch heights available ranging from flat foot to high arch, while the design attempts to combat Achilles irritation with the high cuff heels to reduce break-in time during fast-paced matches. The Luna has a new innovative circular stud pattern named the Cyclone 360, which will allow players to move more freely with agility, precision, and security on the pitch. I remember seeing the circular arrangement for the first time when it came out and just thought it was so clever. Like, to turn quickly, it just made sense. Adidas in 2025 launched the F50 Spark Fusion. Adidas's journey to create a football boot for females began more than 3 years ago. Their global category director Masa Aryan recounted a conversation she had with football superstar Alessia Russo about 3 or 4 years prior to this. Aryan asked Russo if she thought she needed or wanted a pair of female-specific football boots. But Russo said she didn't have the answer to that question. Instead, she threw it back, asking, "Aren't you supposed to tell me what I need?" It was the cauterizing moment that turned research into action. Designing the F50 Spark Fusion was a process that involved a decade's worth of foot anatomy data, extensive analysis, and detailed feedback from world-class teams like Arsenal Women, Real Madrid Femenino, and Lyon. The result of this analysis? A football boot with a fit and form that can truly enhance performance at the elite level. There's more room in the toes, a narrower fit in the heel, and more volume in the midfoot for increased comfort. A new sole plate has been optimized to facilitate quicker turns and a better push-off. The studs have been adjusted for ease of rotation with a semi-conical shape and a configuration based on the pressure point data of the female bodies, similar to Nike's. Interestingly, an additional 4th stud was added to the outer side of the boot. This allows for evenly distributed pressure and for natural grass to artificial grass compatibility. And it also launched in a deliciously irresistible lavender. And with Trinity Rodman at the helm of the launch, I wanted to buy it immediately. While I think it's too early to see if these shoes will fix long-term discomfort or injuries in the women's game, the progress is exactly what we need. This is how we're creating our own space within sports. It's not just about building these incredible shoes, it's about building a brand that resonates with women and finding that space. We're no longer going to be an afterthought. We can continue to demand better, and these groundbreaking inventions specifically for female athletes will only get more. I think these shoes are an emotional experience. It shows little girls that there are things made specifically for them in sport. The shoes allow them to imagine themselves within the space, and that's what we need more of. So Aida, Adidas, Nike, Puma, and all the brands that will follow in suit, thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you for watching episode 3 of Good Design Wins. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I'll see you next week.